People like games.
Today, I'm joined by Hauk Nelson, who has just joined NRG in the partnerships department. Hauk, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Of course. Let's a little, I guess, transparency for the viewers. This is our first time meeting, so if you guys are like, you guys sound like you're talking for the first time, shit,
We sure are.
Yep. But as we were just talking, we were getting in some intro role. We'll start with gaming, obviously. What do you know? People like games. What are you playing right now? So what is the main game that sort of got your focus and attention?
You know, League of Legends is kind of a constant in my life. I'm always playing that, but I'm trying to broaden, what I'm playing, because I've been playing that game for like 10 years now. But I've been playing the new Super Mario World on the Switch with Bowser's Fury, so that's been a ton of fun. It's pretty good. I picked it up originally for the Wii U, back when I had a Wii U, but the Wii U was such a dud that
Exactly.
I just didn't really enjoy it, but I'm enjoying it a lot more this time around. And then I'm also trying to pick up Valorant because our professional Valorant team at NRG is doing pretty well, and there's talks about doing some like in-house games with the staff. And since I've never really been a big FPS guy, I really got to get good real quick to not be the worst player at the company.
That's got to be a tough one when you play with a bunch of pros in Valorant. I already got a hard enough time when I get into the lobby. I'm like, this is tough. So then, if FPS isn't your usual go-to genre, you got some League. Are you a team fight tactics man?
I've been playing a little bit of that. I go through like periods of that, just like the same goes with like Hearthstone or Legends of Runeterra. I go through these bouts where like I'm playing nothing but TFT or Hearthstone or Runeterra for like a week, and then I get pretty done with it because there's at least for a competitive guy like me, there's that extra level you need to get to like actually start improving at the game, and I've never felt the desire to like go through that process of like actually learning how to build a deck or learning how to properly do all the TFT strats and stuff like that. So I get exactly. So I'd say like once a quarter, I get a kick for one of those turn-based games.
That's right. So then, if on a base sale, what would be your favorite genre of games? Because we're gonna kill FPS. I'm gonna say you're an RTS guy from what I'm seeing, but where else does that expand out into?
Yeah, well, I've always been a big Pokemon guy. Pokemon was my first game like ever, so I've always been a big Pokemon guy. I'm a big platformer guy, so that's been Mario. I love Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. That game is great. I also played a whole ton of Hades when that was big a couple months ago. So
I got obsessed with Hades, and if one of our co-hosts, Reggie, he's obsessed too. What an incredible game. I didn't know how it was out for 2 years without being on the radar.
I know, right?
Whatsoever. That's what blew my mind, because we were just talking about discoverability, and I was like, it came out in 2018. Like,
I know.
That's the prize.
Yeah, my girlfriend, she just graduated from DePaul University with a game design degree, so she is really, she's much more into like the indie titles as opposed to like the AAA games and stuff like that. So she's a great resource for just like finding new games that I've never heard of. And I saw her play Hades a ton, and I was like, okay, I got to get in on this now.
It's great. If you want a very unique game, Capto, Capto. Yeah. It's super interesting. It's sort of like a laying out map game. I was playing on Xbox Game Pass because I have the same thing where indie games end up having sort of the most uniquely stylized or mechanical sort of things, so that you see it there. Of course, you'll see it in a mainstream game in 2-3 years, but seeing it sort of in that position. And on the note of Hades, amazing replayability for a game that is potentially repetitive seeming. Like Cuphead was a big one for me that I loved, but that rogue style game that like we were talking about competitively too, at a certain degree, you're like, man, I'm getting a little frustrated with this redundancy and the feeling but Hades every time felt very fresh, all the weapons, etc. So
exactly, because it's one of those games where it I don't want to say it rewards you for failing, but you're accruing gold, you're gaining that, I don't know what they call it, dark matter or whatever, that you can spend to right to okay, now you take reduced damage, or you get more better chance of better boons, or something like that. So each time you're playing, you are progressing, at least in terms of your personal stats, so that you can eventually beat the game.
And that was a great mixture. I think that's a new one. So this is what we're talking about, like indie games, to have a something that's continual on top. So I don't know if you've played Dead Cells at all. Mm-hmm. It has a similar structure in that it allows you to do that roguelike while building up skills, etc., that you can sort of hold on to for the whole game.
Sure.
But so then this brings us over then to get to the wider ranging question. If you have one, a favorite game or game series of all time?
It's hard for me to say anything besides Pokemon, just because that was my first game. They've got a new one coming out every year, and I always buy it. I would actually love to see a side-by-side comparison of hours played of Pokemon versus League of Legends, because I don't know which one is more at this point. But it's hard for me to say anything but Pokemon, just because it's been so long.
It's the lifeline. Especially with the sentimental value. Pokemon Legends, are you excited?
Oh yeah, big time. Because everyone's been clamoring for that open world stuff for such a long time, and clearly, people were saying before, well, maybe it's because the Switch can't handle it from a technological perspective, but Breath of the Wild obviously proved that that's not an
Witcher
issue.
3 on it,
right? Exactly. So that's not the issue here. It's clearly just is Pokemon willing to deviate enough, because it's the best-selling IP of all time? Do they really need to? Are they willing to experiment?
At what point is it too much or something dangerous that would sort of inherently hurt the brand? Because I'm really excited for the MOBA, because Pokemon Unite. You're legal. You got both of those things right there for you. Yeah. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's a really great one. And then I'm surprised, because although even that intro reel for the Nintendo for the Pokemon Presents was beautiful. What a childhood flashback. But seeing how they've sort of been conservative in what they've sort of adapted into, it feels a little bit, maybe I could be wrong as a Pokemon fan, do you feel that some of the iterations of games that you've seen in the past few years could be like prototypes for what they were doing with Pokemon Legends? Because watching it, I was like, I feel like there's 2-3 games Nintendo came out with, their Pokemon company, that have pieces of these mechanisms in them, but that don't look completed. And Sword and Shield always felt like you guys just stopped making this game, and then we're like, I'm excited, but it was curious. So would you see that as someone who's dedicated to playing them, that you feel that each of them build on something that they added in the last one? So whatever we'll see in this newest game will be sort of piecemeal from.
I think Pokemon and the Nintendo as a whole had this big issue going back to whenever the Wii U was released, be that 2012 or 2013, where they didn't really know what to do with it and how to convert that to differentiating between the Wii U and then the mobile market, for playing the Wii U or playing the DS or 3DS or what have you. But then with the Switch, they finally decided, okay, we're not really doing the Game Boy 3DS model at all anymore. We're going straight to just the Switch, doing everything on the Switch. And I think that really messed up, I don't actually know, but I think that really messed up their development pipeline for a lot of things they were working on. And I think when you look at a game like Sword and Shield, there wasn't really a lot of people complained, at least that the base game didn't have that much to do. It was very, not a lot going on. And, first Pokemon game on the Switch, there should be amazing graphics and stuff like that. But I think that game was a port of a 3DS game that they just didn't, have the time to, do anything for. So they wanted to play around with some more, nicer mechanics, like Pokemon following you in the overworld, which they put more into the expansion passes. 100%. So they definitely want to do it. I just think that there are a lot of, it's a very conservative company. They were trying to experiment and iterate in a way that was meaningful, but they didn't know how to do that while still maintaining, the evolution of the Pokemon games, I guess.
And it's great you say it, because seeing Nintendo move over for the Switch and seeing basically the full iteration of what they wanted to do with the Wii U in the first place. Because I have the Wii U here right behind me, because I play Wind Waker, and I I'm not going to get it from Nintendo. I got to play on the Classic. And I love how if you move 50 feet away, it's it's not working. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. But
yeah,
with regards to what you're saying with Pokemon, now with the Switch or the move and the sort of dedication to Switch and getting that mobile market away, I think with what they've been trying to do, I guess like Pokemon Let's Go became much bigger, I think, than they had expected. And I think that even paused the pipeline. It's sort of like a GTA problem, right? Where GTA 5, I think, got so big that they could have had GTA 6 out earlier, potentially, speculatively. But if you're making that much money hand over fist on some sort of property, why not just keep dropping some DLC and keeping that going? And then when you see a little plateau, you can rebuild interest.
Sure.
And like Pokemon, I saw Let's Go, right? Because my girlfriend's been playing Let's Go a lot. So I've been I never played it, didn't get familiarized with the mechanics of it, but having played Sword and Shield and all that, I would to see it. I think your idea of it was a port that didn't get brought over was an interesting one. But I was happy with it. It was the experience I wanted of just a Pokemon game in that world, even if it's not everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Pokemon in general has like such a big challenge where they have, look, this is a rated E game for children at the end of the day.
They're the Disney of gaming. It's the same way that they had to figure it out for Kingdom Hearts. How do you integrate your characters into a world that might, or even any version of it that might not be controlled by you?
Right. And, people complain, well, this game is a lot easier than it was, 20 years ago when I played at age, 6 in 2001 or whatever it was. And it's like, yeah, the game, like Nintendo has acknowledged that Pokemon has gotten easier, but also like, you're a full grown man now. Of course, it's going to be a lot easier.
Things aren't as difficult as when I was 6. Something's wrong here.
Yeah, like when I first started playing Pokemon, I couldn't even read. Like, of course, it's going to be a lot different. So, Pokemon is never going to make everybody happy, but I think overall they've done a pretty good job of balancing between people like us that have been playing those games for a really long time and have high expectations, or we've grown out of Pokemon to an extent and have played other games and want the certain improved quality of life changes to be brought to Pokemon, but then they're also 8-year-olds picking up their first game ever and it's Pokemon, and it's a really hard balancing act, and I think overall they've done a pretty good job.
100%. Like my co-host's first games are Diamond and Pearl, and I'm like,
right,
I don't know how that feels. Like if you weren't playing with the classic Game Boy, this is a different experience for Pokemon.
Right.
But very much agree on all those. But then that actually brings me to a great one, because I know now you're a Pokemon person. You might have a very good answer to this one, and one of our favorite questions on the show. What is one cartoon, book, animated series, comic, etc., piece of art fiction literature that you would love to see adapted into a video game and made into an immersive experience? So just for some background, Azim, who had brought up Batman Beyond. Our co-host Reggie had brought up Yu Yu Hakusho. Yeah, got a little bit of anime here too. And then we have an Ed, Edd and Eddy simulator request as well.
I love that just in general we're seeing IP just explored in a lot of different ways. The biggest example of that being when Disney bought Marvel, and they're probably milking that a bit too much, but they made all those movies out of it. They're exploring it with gaming now. They're vamping up the comics and all that stuff. I think we're going to see a lot more of just IP in general being explored in a bunch of different ways. But one of the first things that came to mind was Ender's Game, which is one of my favorite books growing up. And what reminds me of that is that it kind of, Ender, the character, plays his own sort of like RPG within the book. But then when he's doing these training simulations to fight against the big alien race or whatever they're called, I immediately get StarCraft vibes. And so, it's a game, an Ender's Game video game could combine, RPG elements with also, maybe you're also playing, the RPG that Ender was playing, but there's also, the RTS elements and strategy, or maybe that's turn-based like a Fire Emblem or something like that. I think there are a lot of different cool things you could do with that.
Ender's Game?
That's my answer. Yeah.
That's great, because that is very open, because like it opens up all those different immersive aspects, from strategy to space battles to the actual, because there's a few games that try to put in the different types of gameplay. Right. Singular experience. That's a hell of an idea. So developers, man credit if you try to adapt that. All right, so now that was a great one. So then I'm gonna keep on that one. What is it about video games that make you prefer them to other mediums?
That's tough because I definitely, I enjoy, I watch movies, I watch TV shows, I read, I'm a big music guy too. But I think with gaming specifically is that it's interactive, right? You're putting in an input and then, something else is responding to that, so if music is just audio, movies and TV shows are audio visual, that's like one and then two of the five senses. But then gaming is, you could almost argue that that's putting in the third of that, touch maybe, where you're really just getting another level of sensory experience with it. And gaming as a whole has just so much more diversity and different sort of things that you can do that you just don't really see as much in movies and TV shows. Where you brought up Cuphead earlier. Cuphead is one of those games where not only is it an awesome game in and of itself, very intense, very challenging, it's also got this fantastic art style, based on old-timey cartoons. And I love when a game not only has great gameplay aspects, but it also has great art, great design, really cool elements to it. Hades being another great example of having this fantastic, very unique art style with great music and great voice acting. But it's also, all that stuff would mean a lot less if it wasn't also a fantastic game, which it is.
100%, 100%. And it's very interesting you mentioned with the Hollywood and the video game IP adaptation as well, and the Marvel purchase as well, because I feel like the tapping out of all those comic book characters has led to all of this interest in gaming IP suddenly, right? They need new stories to be able to tell. There's not many comics left. And then in addition, the way, and exactly what you're just talking about, the way some of these indie titles can create such beautiful aesthetics or gameplay and these sort of unique visual and sensory experiences comparatively to the movie experience, because I'm a big movie guy as well, big book guy. But movies have moved towards that sort of tentpole system of if it's not big and gigantic, you just don't watch it, right? And in gaming, the exact ones that we keep talking about specifically are the ones that are much more indie. Indie is a place where it's blossoming. Right. Same way with indie films. I'm sure those are some of your favorites as well. Same with me, where you see the creator and or the director go through all of these sort of they put their personality on them, and I think indie games give a great place for that. And so I do agree. It blends all of them. So then moving in, because you said diversity as well. Because this is probably a big questioning happening amongst the gamerati. What is the definition of a gamer?
This is something I struggle a lot with too, especially when I don't really sell at the moment at my current job, but at my old job, I was selling esports sponsorships a lot, sponsoring, a big esports tournament or whatever it might be. And brands would always say, well, we really want to hit that gamer segment. And, the more I heard that, the more I was like, to me, who doesn't play video games anymore? Pretty much every athlete that you see, getting drafted into the NBA or NFL now, so many of them mentioned that, part of what, maintained their drive to get into the NFL or NBA was that they played Madden or NBA 2K growing up or something like that. And I just think it's something that most people do now, at least people of our generation back, you're not really going to find people that haven't at least played any sort of video game anymore. Sure, it's different for older generations, but even the older generations, most have played some sort of game on their phone. My aunt, who definitely wouldn't call herself a gamer, she's 65, and she plays a ton of Candy Crush. She wouldn't fit that normal gamer definition, but she's racking up hours in games. We
talked about this too. If someone's playing 10 hours of Candy Crush a week and you're playing 10 hours of League, aren't we both gamers?
what's
gamers.
the difference? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
100%.
And when someone says they want to market to gamers, to me that's just like the same way as saying, we really want to market to people that watch movies or listen to
Yeah,
music. And it's like,
yeah.
okay, so everybody,
Everybody,
they're
right? It's
of
like,
course,
it's not a catch-all phrase. It's buzzwords,
yeah.
man. Buzzwords get people to think that it's all general.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, there are people like I'm assuming like us that are maybe the more hardcore gamers that let the different gaming IPs seep into different elements of our life. You've got a
Yeah.
Pokemon cereal box in the back. I've got a Mewtwo Funko Pop. I don't think
Yeah.
it's in shot, but so like there's a difference there, obviously, but I think it's very outdated to say that we want to hit a gaming audience when everybody pretty much games now, and that's not going away.
Yeah.
Anyone that's younger than us is going to have played at least some video game growing up because everybody's got a phone. So
100%. So brands, if you're listening, we've evolved past the 18 to 25 male demo. So reflect. But that actually opens up a great question as well. Probably got one or two more for you before I let you get out of here. But speaking of brands, so obviously the space has gaming has obviously gotten much more popular in the past year or two, and a whole bunch of endemic or non-traditional brands and sponsors are starting to come into the space, and it's opening up a lot of unique opportunities and opening up, basically, as you're saying, a new version of what a gamer is and who it can reach to. What are some of the most interesting versions of that you've seen exist in the space at the moment? Any partnerships that have occurred that you're like, that was a smart one? Or I guess even more specifically, what do you see the space like for, or the direction of these sort of sponsors? Is it saturated, moving anywhere?
I think that just like with any sort of sponsorship, there's a huge difference between just slapping a logo on something and truly integrating your brand into the content that an esports team might put out, for example. And I think gaming and esports has kind of proven in general that there needs to be a big change in how sponsorship works as a whole, because you see pretty much I don't know if you have any sponsors or anything, but you see with any podcast or YouTube video, so many have sponsors, and the YouTuber will say this was brought to you by so and so, and they do a quick blurb or whatever, but everyone knows that the YouTuber isn't really into it, the audience isn't really into it. It's just something to keep the lights on. And I think there's such a challenge to create meaningful content that resonates with the brand, for one thing, which is very difficult to do, but then bring that brand in a way that's meaningful to the audience of the esports team, of the streamer, whoever it may be. And I think NRG, actually, I admit I'm biased, does a very good job of that. But in terms of what I'd like to see more of in the partnership space, I think we're going to see a lot more cross-pollination of different kinds of entertainment mediums coming together. So for example, we've seen a lot of musicians start to buy into esports orgs. So like Post Malone invested into Envy, Drake bought into 100 Thieves. I think
is in phase.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think we're gonna get to this point, we're almost there already, I think, where the big esports athletes, the big streamers that do gaming full time are going to be seen on the same level as top athletes, top musicians, and we're going to see a lot more cross-pollination content, like we've seen where just last week in Post Malone did that Pokemon concert, or the Travis Scott Fortnite thing, or Ninja did something in partnership with Marshmello, the DJ. We're going to see a lot more, just like you already see big NBA stars hanging out with top rappers. I think soon enough, and comedians too, you're going to see streamers start hanging out in those same entourages.
Interesting. That's funny. So Ninja was a prescient character out of nowhere. That's very interesting. And I very much agree on that end of things sort of blending in. I guess on that end of these sort of entertainment mediums and the sort of marriage of different platforms coming in, what is, in your opinion, the most valuable but at the moment overlooked opportunity in esports? So someone was like, you can do any partnership or any version of something in esports that you wanted today, and you're like, but why isn't anybody doing this? What comes to mind?
There are
Especially with
two.
someone experienced.
There are two. So the first thing that I think of is there's so much there's so many similarities between a bunch of people living together in a gaming house, all trying to be streamers together and, making it. Just like, FaZe is a great example. They have a ton of content houses and, they all live together, stream together, and cross pollinate each other with content and stuff like that. And now that I look at it, I'm always reminded of Odd Future. I'm a big Tyler the Creator fan, and Odd Future, at least for me, was this first big rap collective where not only were they all making music together, they were also making YouTube videos together. They were doing Loiter Squad. They were doing a ton of things together that wasn't even just music. They were doing a bunch of skate stuff. They were really just famous people, and they were all friends together, and they did a bunch of different things together. And I think we're going to see a lot more of just streamers in general having these interests outside of gaming, and that's where you're going to see these bigger brands rise up, just like Odd Future did, where Odd Future, Golfwing, all those brands, the same guy, but all coming out of that. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that too. I'm waiting for the first rap collective that also streams in gaming. I think it's going to happen soon.
I do.
Within the next year or two, because there's such a big crossover too between so many people listen to music while they game. So if a streamer can go, hey, check out this song that I made and I'm streaming it on Twitch or whatever, I mean, you can't really get better marketing than that,
especially with that DMCA nonsense going on.
Exactly.
So I mean, if you're a musician, a lot of opportunity and money there.
Exactly. The other thing that is big abroad, but it's not big in the US yet, is anything related to mobile esports. Anything esports related right now is pretty much exclusively PC. You're seeing a little bit console stuff, but what?
Do you see that coming to the West in the same manner?
And that's the thing where I don't know for sure.
Because I study this as a technological thing. The areas that are popular with mobile gaming, they skipped the computer era. So they went straight from no internet to mobile, and we're stuck in the lag time of not adapting to mobile in the same way other countries around the world might have.
I totally agree with you. And, obviously there's a huge difference between, the gaming market here in the US and say, Brazil or Indonesia or something like that. But at the same time, I don't want to be the crotchety old man that just because mobile was never a thing for me doesn't mean that it's not going to be the future of gaming here in the US. Because if you look at the growth of, if you're looking at three segments, mobile, PC, and console, even in just the US, spend in mobile is outpacing the other two, and the growth is far larger too. 100%. And I'm shocked that we aren't seeing more content being built around that yet. The only group I see doing mobile content is Tribe Gaming. They're an esports org based in Austin, Texas, and they're the only org I see doing esports content based exclusively on mobile. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that, just because the people that are like 9, 10, 11 today, sure, they're probably playing Fortnite, which NRG obviously does a ton of, but is their first console that they're playing on a PC, or is it even like an Xbox or PlayStation? No, it's probably a tablet, or if not that.
And with cloud gaming too, is they even going to push PC or console sales, or mobile sales only going to double down further? I do agree with that very much.
Yeah, so I'm trying to balance it out between, trying to be a healthy skeptic about what I believe in terms of, the U.S. market is obviously very different in a lot of ways. It's very unique compared to the rest of the world. But the kids, the young people of today are definitely starting their experiences more on mobile. Yes, the youths are all about them cell phones, I got to make sure you're paying attention to that too.
Exactly. And I was going to say, now then on the last one, would you say a focus on gaming outside of the United States and a more global impact would be a smart idea for esports and gaming brands to do as well. Because, like you're saying, if you're going for different segments, why are you going to focus on only, say, the US and transforming that market instead of maybe finding markets where they are? Do you see a lot of that in gaming where the international market might be a little bit undervalued?
Oh, there's a ton of that. I just, I don't see a reason why a US based esports org has to be, that org for everybody abroad.
Mm-hmm.
Why would it have to be an American org that's also the biggest org in Brazil or Indonesia
Mm-hmm.
or China?
100%.
No US esports org can touch China. It's got its own much bigger ecosystem.
100%.
But a great example is that there's this org in Brazil called Loud. I think it's just Loud. It might be Loud Gaming. But their whole thing is Free Fire, Garena Free Fire, and they were the first esports org ever to hit 1 billion views on YouTube across all of their videos.
Wow.
And NRG, we just got awarded, most watched esports org in NA for February, which is great. But
Uh-huh.
the audience in the US is obviously very different from that of Brazil. The motivations are very different. So I don't see any world, especially as we're seeing gaming moving much more into the entertainment space as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
just purely a sports or athletics play. Why would it be a US, entertainment company that's the biggest one in Brazil?
Mm-hmm. 100%. I always look at it a little bit more like Netflix, where you can have a company that adapts from its American market to Netflix India and Netflix, and they sort of cater what they're doing there. But like you said, it's very hard to beat organic growth in the market from a different country as well. Like if you're going to go into Brazil and compete with the Brazil version of your own organization, like an MIBR, et cetera, you're going to be in sort of a different playing field.
Well, just anybody that wants to reach an international market, don't assume it's going to be, the exact same as just like exactly what you did in the US. For one
Yeah.
thing, why would someone abroad, let's just use Brazil, why would a Brazilian want to support you in the first place when they've got a ton of their own, people doing awesome things in their own country? So one, why would they? And two, how are you showing any sort of commitment,
Yeah.
to the country? That's a long-term investment that I don't think a lot of esports orgs really have the time horizon for. A lot of people are looking for quick 2 to 3 year turnarounds, but to really be authentic to the country, you really need to invest long term, on like a 5-10 year horizon, which I don't think a lot of people are willing to do.
That aggressive 2 to 3 ROI on buzzword gaming investments is not doing anybody well or building a long lasting organization. But that's about all I had. Hauk, thank you very much for coming on. What's your Twitter for the folks?
Oh, I think it's just at Hauk Nelson. HAUKNELSON.
That was it. HAUKNELSON. That was a great chat. I had a great time. I feel like I've taken a lot of your time already, so I'm like, oh shit. I look at the time, I was like, oh, I feel like this is going on. I gotta let him go. But it was great. If you'd ever like to, please come on the show again. You got anybody from NRG you want to bring over to talk a little bit as well? Happy to bring anyone on.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Take care. Bye.
All right. So.